in Loch Dhu.
Yes, about Chicago. This is the crime capital of the world.
At 8:20, True Love in Chigwell.
My son's sleeping with someone I don't even know. Relax, Trace. My husband did it for years.
And at 9:10, Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear. Sunday night on BBC One.
It's a special Sunday morning for BBC One and for thousands of runners as we go out into the city for the action and the atmosphere of London's marathon.
Today, the London Marathon is 16, and the scene in the now almost deserted centre of the capital city in 2 or 3 hours will be very, very different. The pavements will be packed as thousands and thousands try to see the closing stages of an event that's caught the imagination of people from all over the world and become one of the biggest and most popular dates in Britain's London. The London Marathon, sponsored by Flora, is bigger than ever. A record 39,000 entries have been accepted, and tens of thousands who wanted to run have been disappointed. And the runners come from no less than 112 nations. The great, the good, and the hopeful are gathering at the starting points of Blackheath and Greenwich, and today is the day when they find out, whatever their standard, whether they've got the long preparation right. The vast majority running for their favourite charities, the elite at the front, running for prize money athletes would never have even dreamt about a few years ago. In the women's race, the #1 Briton is Liz McColgan. Sabańska of Poland goes for a second win in succession. Ceron of Mexico defends the men's title he's won for the past 2 years. Silva is also from Mexico and has won New York twice and was third in London 2 years ago. Russo of Belgium is one of the top Europeans. And Eamon Martin, the winner in '93, goes again for Great Britain. Supported by Paul Evans, consistent and still improving. Because of the vast numbers, there are 3 starting points and 3 different starting times. The elite women will start in a few minutes at 9 o'clock. The wheelchair events at 9:25, and the elite men and the masses at 9:30. And although in the early stages they'll take slightly different routes, they converge and all run the same distance, 26 miles, 385 yards. The route takes them mainly along the line of the Thames and takes in many of London's classic tourist attractions. Well, it's a lovely morning in London, unless, of course, you're running a marathon. Great for spectators. Out at the 12-mile marker, Tower Bridge, Sue Barker.
And we've got clear blue skies here at Tower Bridge, and it's already very warm, almost 60 degrees at the moment, and climbing. Well, of the elite runners, we expect the leading women to cross the bridge here at around 10:10, and the leading men about 20 minutes later. Then, when the pace slows down quite considerably, I'll be doing my best to catch up with some of the fun runners to hear stories of courage, determination, some of them a little outrageous, but they all make the London Marathon very special.
Well, now, 4 or 5 miles along the road, the Isle of Dogs, is Tim Vincent of Blue Peter.
There's some fantastic views of the city from the wharf here. I'm at the Isle of Dogs, which is 16 miles on the course. Again, the runners will be allowed to run round one of the tallest buildings in Europe. This tower I'm standing on is over 800 foot tall and is the centre of Canary Wharf. Once they pass this part of the course, they've got another 10 miles to go, and I'm going to be joining them down on the streets, chatting to the runners and getting a little flavour of the mood of the marathon.
Well, the marathon comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes, the marathon runners today, and so does the commentary team. We've got Chris Hallam with us, twice a winner of the wheelchair London Marathon, Paul Dickinson, and of course Brendan Foster, who have run the London Marathon, but been round several times in the car, Brendan. But hardly a good day for marathon runners, I can tell you that now, with the temperature climbing. In fact, it's the warmest London Marathon we've had yet, even at this stage. Well, now, at the start, with some of the, well, unusual competitors, is Hazel Irvin.
Mom, on behalf of one of your loyal subjects, can I wish you a very happy birthday?
Thank you very much.
70 years old today. And looking very sprightly, may I say, for your age. And what kind of time will you be running the marathon in today?
Just under 5 hours.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And when we go up the mall, we'll retire, of course, for a quick cup of tea afterwards.
Cup of tea, yes.
To the palace.
Yeah.
Lovely. Excuse me, sir. Should you really be running in your condition?
I think I'll be all right. I've had a very good breakfast, very hearty.
It certainly seems like it. Who are you running for today?
The Meningitis Trust.
And this is not the only part of the costume. Let me...
There's the head as well,
I see you just...
which is the most important piece.
Oh.
Right, quick.
I think we should have a quick look. I know you're trying to save and put off the moment until you have to put this thing on, because it's going to be extremely
My straws
hot.
for a bit of drinking.
Good idea. Oh my goodness, you look wonderful, but
Good old Skegness Jolly Fisherman.
how hot is it going to be in there, do you reckon?
Well, this is the hottest I've ever known it. This is the third time Jolly's done it. And I think it's going to be rather warm today. Okay.
Well, that's the scene at the starting point. Remember, the 3 starting points, but not for the first race. We're going to see the elite women. They start in a few minutes' time at 9 o'clock. And conditions, Brendan Foster, well, hardly ideal for a marathon.
Hardly ideal at all, but actually very, very surprising, because the weather prediction was going to be about 9 degrees, and that's been way exceeded. And I know a lot of the athletes were talking about fast times yesterday. People hadn't taken into consideration there was going to be anything like this, and I think everyone's woken up this morning, us included, to find the weather. Glorious day for a day out in London. And Liz McColgan, she's told me yesterday that she's not bothered about the weather, she's not bothered about fast times, but this London Marathon, to win it today, will be very, very important for her.
Well, Liz loosening up, making sure the shoes are fastened properly. That's the worst thing that can happen to you if you don't tie your laces properly. But here now, as the race is about to start, the thoughts of Liz McColgan.
Well, really, at the start of a marathon, it's like every other race or every other training session that I've ever done. I don't hear anything that's going on about me. People could be speaking to me, I might smile, I might say hi, but I'm very unaware that they're there. I really tend to go inside myself, and there's just a routine that I do. You know, I do a warm-up, stretching, you know, I'll go and get my drink, the water, you know, go to the toilet, whatever. And it's a routine that I've did day in and day out for, you know, 20-odd years. And so really it's just, I always try to keep as calm as possible, and so I tend to just shut myself away. And you know, obviously I think of what I'm away to do. You know, obviously it's 26 miles, and I always go through my head, you know, why am I doing this? And then I sit and say to myself, well, I'm doing it because, you know, and then I just talk myself through the race, the way I see me running the race, and just try to keep as calm as possible.
Hoping to see Liz McColgan back at her very best. 103 there is Kakowska of Poland, one of the elite runners. 104 next door, Liz McColgan, of course, now coached by Greta Weitz on this race. 123 and 114. 123 is Sally Eastall, Great Britain. 114, Danielle Sanderson, the British athlete. Kathy Sherman is 119. Aktas of Turkey, 115. 108 is Jane Salome, Estonia. The mix of nations is quite incredible.
And a very interesting element in this women's London Marathon, we've got 3 Kenyan runners. There's never been a Kenyan female athlete in the first 10 in the London Marathon, but with the 3 of them here today involved, I'm sure that's going to change. And there we're looking at number 101, Sobańska from Poland, last year's winner, very much of the mind that she can win it again. And there's 2 of the Kenyans, Helen Kameo and Kanana, who led for such a long time in the World Championship Marathon in Gothenburg. But I think this is today the real opportunity for Liz McColgan to win the London Marathon.
Kakowska of Poland is one to watch. 103, been very prominent in this race before. Winner in Amsterdam, 3 times in Berlin. Coached by her husband. That's 103, Kakowska. .129 going forward, one of the Kenyans. Kanana. And the countdown now approaching the final half minute. Mary Peters, the famous figure, Olympic gold medalist, now president of the British Athletics Federation, is the starter. The start is flat and fast. Very, very slightly downhill. Temptation to go too quickly in the early stages. Hard to resist.
I'm sure the early discussion on the way from the Tower Hotel, where most of the elite athletes have been staying, on our way here to Greenwich, has been about the surprisingly warm weather conditions that we've experienced. Exactly the same opinion that the men will share as they have to take their journey from the start. But this women's field, the good strong field, 3 Kenyans, 2 Poles, 4 or 5 of the top Britons, including Liz McColgan, and a very pedestrian opening half mile or so. And Liz McColgan there we can see just off the leading group.
In that leading group, 121 is Tazdima of Turkey, then Salume, 108, Estonia, Harkenstad of Norway, 117, also up there. Harkenstad of Norway, best time in 2 hours 33. 121 going through is Tazdima of Turkey. Her best time 2 hours 40. 115 checking the watch. Atkas of Turkey. 111. Ivanova of Russia. Sally Eastle is 123. Chepchumba is 112.
She's an interesting character there, number 111, the Russian Ivanova, because when Liz McColgan won the World 10,000 meter championships in Tokyo in 1991, Ivanova won the women's 10k walking championships in that same event. She's now moved from walking to moving a little bit faster on the road. She hasn't quite come of age, number 111 there. She hasn't quite come of age on the roads or on the track, but she's obviously got tremendous endurance, and eventually in a few more years' time I'm sure she'll run a good marathon.
112 is not 112. Check on that leader's number. Ah, 117 is Harkenstead of Norway. This is followed by 108. That's Salume of Estonia. It'll be interesting to check on the pace in the first mile because it looks to be fairly modest. Quite rightly so, too.
It's also quite leisurely as they run from the Greenwich Park down, wind their way down to the riverbank. You have the gentle downhill runs in the early stages of this London Marathon. Some of the mile splits, some of the intermediate times can be a little bit confusing because they are dropping all the time, and it's later when they get away from the river and they go under the Isle of Dogs where the slight incline. But London Marathon is a good marathon course. There's been world records set here. There have been some outstanding times set, particularly Ingrid Christensen's world record, which still stands, set here in 1985, 11 years ago. We haven't seen quite the like of Liz McColgan, of Ingrid Christensen, but over the years, Liz McColgan has threatened to do that, and I wonder if today could be the day where Liz really comes of age in the marathon.
Well, they're into the final quarter of the first mile. I would reckon, Brendan, they're around, what, 5:20?
First mile should be interesting if they're around 5:20. That's reasonably quick. But the two leaders are a few yards ahead of the chasing group, and I would suggest that the chasing group is probably more on schedule than Hakenstadt, who's a good marathon runner, runs some good races, particularly in London, but never really at the world-class level. Salomai of Estonia in second place, and the two of them quite happy, quite content just to set the pace together, about 50-60 yards ahead of the chasing group, and they are approaching the end of the first mile now.
When we get across the road, because just after the mile marker, the first mile marker, there's a sharp left turn. Of Norway, 117, Salume of Estonia, 108. And the rest of the field quite happy to let them go. 5:51.
Well, the lead runners have come across 5:51 in the first mile, but they've come across right on the inside. The blue line is on their right-hand side, and they're supposed to keep the blue line to their left. And the blue line, which traces its way around London, and then the cleaning up crew will follow it round as soon as the last runner crosses the start line later on, and then they'll start the job of taking the blue line off. But you can see the blue line gently stretching across the road to the left-hand side, but the runners ignored it for a little while, and the two of them through the first mile in 5:51. And the chasing group will be around about 6 minutes, so the leisurely early start to the women's London Marathon is exactly as we predicted it to be.
Sultanova, the Russian, now in third place and going after the leaders. Broken away from the main group. And closing quite quickly on the early pacemakers. Over the years, the surface on this London Marathon course has improved enormously.
And one doesn't envy the task of the organisers, because when they go around the Isle of Dogs, there've been loads of building works over the years, loads of resurfacing on the roads, but they've managed to steer a path around there, and literally the underfoot surface, which is important in a major marathon like this, is definitely of benefit these days.
Meanwhile, at the start, the Vuelta race due off at 9:25, the men's elite and the masses at 9:30 from the three different starting points. And here now, once again, Hazel Irvine.
Sir, you are a glutton for punishment.
I am.
Tell me why.
Well, on Monday I did the Boston Marathon and stopped on the way around and did an interview on Radio 5, so I've been a star twice, I think.
And as a centurion, that was your centenary marathon, wasn't it?
That's correct, yes. I did 100. That's my 100th marathon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I ask what factor is it we have on today?
I think it's factor 15.
Do you think that's going to be enough?
I don't know. I'll tell you in about 5 hours' time.
You and Jenny, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Where have you come from today?
From Exeter, Star Cross.
Excellent. And you're running together, I would hope?
Yes, we're going to start. And then she's going to leave me behind, 'cause she's a lot faster than me.
Are you twins?
Yes, we are.
And who's the eldest?
Me. Eunice.
By how long?
20 minutes.
So you've got to be 20 minutes ahead of Jenny then?
No, it should be about an hour.
Meanwhile, out of the road, the women approaching the end of the second mile. Three leaders, still the same. Kasdima, Ivanova, and Hakenstadt of Norway. Well, now the starter for the main races is that famous figure, now the new president of the British Athletics Federation, the Olympic gold medalist Mary Peters.
You're starting the London Marathon this morning. What do you make of the thousands that will be taking part today?
It's just an amazing experience. You know, medals, the inscription is, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And there is so much enthusiasm here today, it's wonderful.
There's a lot of money being raised for charity as well.
Yes, I believe £7.5 million, which is quite a sum of money, and so many charities have put in an awful lot of work. And so many runners have put in so many miles of finding the roads to achieve that. It's wonderful.
Well, in this Olympic year, it's very nice to have an Olympic champion starting it today.
Thank you very much. I feel very privileged.
Mary Peters, Olympic gold medalist in 1972. Well, meanwhile, well on the way to the 2-mile marker in the women's race. That's the elite event. The leading three well away. That's the chasing group, being led by Ivanova of Russia. I say chasing, they're not really chasing at all. They could go along at their own pace.
I think that's right. I don't think they are chasing, but I think it's quite interesting that preparing for the London Marathon, one never contemplates that you've got to prepare for running in warm and hot conditions. Preparing for the Atlanta Marathon, all the athletes are looking at their preparation, they're thinking about going away, spending time at warm weather sites so they can get acclimatized to running in warm weather. So the London Marathon, the spring marathon, which is traditionally, the temperature is usually around about 10 degrees, which is almost perfect for marathon running. And then all of a sudden, in one day, they arrive here, everyone's talking about the great conditions yesterday, and then this morning they turn out, and typical British weather, the sun's shining, it's warm already, and it's warming up. And by 12 o'clock midday, when the masses will be entering the later stages of their marathon, it's going to be a very warm day in London. So as you said earlier, David, great for spectators, but not too exciting for the runners.
The 2-mile marker, 11:34. Second mile, Brendan running
about 5:40, and I'm doing quick arithmetic there to work that one out. But the thing is, this is a very slow start of the marathon, and I'm sure the main contenders have decided just to let the race evolve, just to let them take it easy and let them walk along.
He did well there with mental arithmetic. Actually, it was 5:43. First one, 5:51, 5:43 the second. Well, the leading British hope is, of course, the lady right in the centre of the picture, Liz McColgan. Very much, we're told, coming back to form. Let's hear from Liz.
Well, as soon as the gun goes, really, it's like an enormous relief that the race is actually off and going. But the main thing with me is I try to just keep as relaxed. It's such a long race, and to waste a lot of energy by getting overexcited or starting off too fast, you know, you could really waste a lot of energy. So I try to just run as relaxed and as easy as possible. The first sort of 5k to 10k, you know, you think of your drinks and preparing, like trying to set out where they are and whatever, and then I just try to keep to my race plan. And, you know, a lot of things just go through my head about my racing and how I'm feeling and whatever.
There's talking before the race and looking in the race, very relaxed.
And she was talking about that, and she was talking about her concentration. And if anything you say about Liz McColgan, she really is good at concentrating during races. She never seems to lose, no matter what's happening to her, she never seems to lose the ability to focus on her own performance. And the leading group of three there, quite well clear of the chasing group, but with the calibre of the athletes in the leading three, then I don't think the winner's going to come from here. But they look at the calibre athletes in the chasing group, and they're sensibly staying together. There's almost safety in numbers in that chasing group.
The leading three, Harkenstead, or Stad of Norway, 1:17, 1:08, Salume, Estonian, 1:10, Sultanova of Russia. It's crystal clear. The main pack have taken a collective decision not to follow this pace.
And there's the chasing group. Ivanova, the former world 10-kilometer walking champion. And if you look at her action, she's got a very low action. The fact that she has been a walking doesn't surprise you with a look at the strength in her legs. And all those years of doing her walking training will have done tremendous benefit for her cardiovascular fitness. But whether she can translate her walking style and form to the road, she's won a marathon recently. She finished 6th in Houston earlier this year. And it's an interesting approach. Start off walking and then start running. Goes the other way around for most people.
101 in the background is Sabinska, last year's winner. Surprise winner last year, but confirmed her form in the World Championships when she slightly misjudged the race, finished very fast in 4th place. She said afterwards, "I think I could have won that, but I made a mistake." Actually, Brendan, for the first time in this London Marathon, the first point for water is usually about 2.5, 3 miles. But I understand that they've got water tables out now every mile.
Well, I think that's to cater for the masses, and I think on a day like today it'll be very, very beneficial and very helpful, and it'll be welcomed by most of the runners. And interestingly enough, the elite runners, they know exactly about these weather conditions. They know that they're going to have to take water on board early, and the mixture of drinks that they use, they concoct the night before, and then they have them sent out to the various feed stations. And in between their own specialized drinks, the electrolyte replacements that they use these days, which are very, very beneficial for distance runners, they also top up where they need to and where they can with just plain water. So today there's going to be an awful lot of water drunk, there's going to be an awful lot of sweated, and there's going to be an awful lot of changes in the later stages of these marathons, both from the men's point of view, the women's point of view, and the elite and the regular club runners, because I think today is going to be a very difficult day as the temperature rises and continues to rise, and there's not a cloud in the sky. So it seems to me it's going to be an awfully hot one by the time we approach the Mao around about 12 o'clock.
And the important thing is to get the water on board early. Don't leave it late, because already dehydration will have started. These athletes know that, but for the multitude behind them and the elite race and the mass start at 9:30, they're going to have to be very aware of that. Incidentally, the pace is speeding up. They've just run the last mile in 5:30 and gone through 3 miles, 17:04. Interesting, Brendan, that they've speeded up so much. It is slightly downhill still, very slightly. Good, fast running road.
It is, and I think this is the bit you can see the actual decline here. And now as they approach the road that goes alongside the Thames, and this is a fast mile, but they do look as though they're speeding up even again. The two of them breaking clear, and I noticed they're timing themselves in kilometers and glancing over the shoulders already. Sultanova, the Russian. But when it comes to a race in Britain, and they're looking at 3 mile times, that won't mean much to the Europeans. And that's why the organisers of the London Marathon prepare for the European athletes the kilometre splits so that they can work out their own times. And I noticed both Salumai and Sultanova, both of them check their watches, both of them checking over their shoulder, and I've got to be honest, both of them surprised to be in this leading position. And you notice Hagenstadt there made a dash across the road, picked up one of the ordinary feeding stations, and there's taking her own drink, which has been marked. You can see the mark on the side of the bottle. And she was keen to get her own drink on board there.
Surprisingly big gap. The mile time's confirmed. Speeding up all the time. Sabinska 101, last year's winner, the pole. Behind her, Liz McColgan, was anxious to get a drink. and taking it on slowly, and rightly so.
That's right. That was the elite athletes feeding station where they have their own drinks marked, as I said earlier, and they run along the tables and they just look along for their own number. And so Bainska there, I noticed, took her own drink. Ivanova and Liz McColgan made a special effort to slow down, get her drink, because she was saying the other day that she has to practice taking these drinks because it's not what you normally do when you're a distance runner. You don't normally drink on the run. And she said today was a practice run for the Atlanta Marathon, where she knows she's going to be taking plenty of drinks on board. Number 116 there, Helen Kameo. It's her debut in the marathon, the Kenyan athlete. And next to her, number 112, Joyce Chepchumba. And this is her first serious marathon, and the two of them are very, very good distance runners, and both of them will run very well today. And they'll be interesting how Liz McColgan plays it with these. But running distance races, running marathons, I would say this group is the group to be safe in. This is the group that's going on at a fairly reasonable pace. And up front, there's a group of three who've broken away. And those three, I wouldn't suggest that they're going to be the dangers in the race. But sometimes you've got to get that balance right. You've got to find out who it is up in the lead. You've got to think about what they're doing. But the chasing group, I think, is the safest place to be.
Approaching the Thames flood barrier, described by some as the eighth wonder in the world. They can't see it, of course. They follow the line of the Thames most of the way, but see very little of the river itself. Meanwhile, dropping back some 3 miles, they're getting ready for the start of the wheelchair race at 9:25, and then the elite men and the masses at 9:30. This is where the competitors start. Greenwich Park. He's not geared for the day, Brendan.
I bet we don't see. I bet he starts taking that white blanket off later on. And I wouldn't like to be one of those teddy bear suits today. I wouldn't be one. Great atmosphere at the start of the London Marathon. They were all at the exhibition yesterday, and it was just like this here in town yesterday. But the enthusiasm, the amount of energy that's going to be generated in the next few hours, well, good luck.
Meanwhile, across at the elite runners start, the wheelchair athletes about to get underway. They start at 9:25. We're joined in the commentary team by Chris Hallam, who's won this event twice, and Paul Dickinson.
Thanks, David. Well, there are 64 athletes out there today getting ready for the start. It's going to be started by Dame Mary Glenn Haig, one of Great Britain's representatives on the International Olympic Committee. All the leading contenders for this championship today are British. There seems to be a lower entry than in previous years. A lot of the athletes preferring to train specifically for the shorter track distances they're going to face in the Paralympics in Atlanta. We're looking out for number 1, David Holding, who starts as favourite in the men's race, an outstanding athlete in recent years, and one of only 2 athletes to win the race twice. The other one, of course, right next to us here, Chris Hallam. Can David become the first man to win it 3 times, Chris?
I think David's a clear favourite, but Jack McKenna from Oldham, who's got number 2, he's on a winning streak at the moment, having won his last 3 races, and it's going to be a tussle between both of them. Also, Ivan Newman, second in London Marathon twice, is up there wearing number 3. Also in picture you've got Chris Madden wearing number 4, and he's got a time of 1:37, so he'll be right up there as well. I think this is basically going to be a British concern, although you've got Broden Cole from Poland, who's got a time of 1:37, so we might be up there mixing it with the leaders as well.
That's Jack McKenna in the picture there. And of course in the women's race we've got 2 outstanding competitors. Rose Hill, who bills herself as housewife and mother. I think she's probably going to use the men to pace herself. She's that fast. And of course Tanny Gray, who's just recently been to Germany, where she's had a new set of wheels built. And we were saying just before the race, Chris, that although the conditions were hot, this could actually help these guys, and conditions absolutely perfect today for the wheelchair marathon.
Certainly, I've done my best times in 70 degrees. I think because of the problems with circulation, the 10 degrees more than the actual runners is actually more beneficial to the wheelchair racers. It's going to be a fast one today, I think.
We hope so. There's Dame Mary Glenn Haig, former Olympic competitor herself, and as I said, member of the International Olympic Committee. And here we go for the wheelchair marathon. Away we go. Not necessarily thinking about fast times here, although the course record held by Heinz Frey, who indeed is the world record holder, but time's not really an issue. This is all about a very competitive race indeed.
Yes, I think Hans Frey's 1 hour 39 was absolutely fantastic, and he's world record holder head and shoulders above everybody else at the moment. But in picture now you're looking at David Holden in the red, and he's got a best time of 1 hour 28, believe it or not, and he'll be looking on the course of finishing in round about the 144 mark, which was actually the course record set by George Van Dam in 1993.
Well, as far as these chairs are concerned, as I said, Tani Gray has just had a new one built in Germany, and Chris, they really are high-tech vehicles.
Yes, you're looking at 2,000 pounds worth of streamlined chrome moly, carbon fibre, up-to-date material. Everybody's using similar kinds of chairs. It's just the athletes that are going to make it on this day.
So already the wheelchair competitors strung out. We'll be keeping you up to date with the leading contenders for the London Marathon Championship, both men and women, as the day progresses. But as you can see, beautiful conditions. And looking forward to seeing if David Holding can become the first man ever to win it 3 times in a row.
Well, the elite men and the masses start at 9:30, 2 or 3 minutes time. They're already... That was a surprise.
Did you spend overnight printing that all of yourself, did you?
Didn't know I got... Didn't know I got relatives in there. The marathon this year is sponsored for the first time by Flora, who will also sponsor the marathon for the next 2 years as well. Now, there's a record number of entries been accepted, 39,000. But the sick, the sorry, the lazy, people with waning ambition tend to drop out, and they're expecting about 27,000 to start. We'll get the figures who've registered, shortly.
I'll tell you what, David, there's some 12,000 runners out doing a marathon for the very first time. And I was speaking to one of the athletes who's taking part today. He describes himself as a fun runner at one of the many pasta parties that were held around London. He said the longest he'd ever run before this, Brendan, was the Great North Run. He doesn't know what he's going to do between the halfway stage and the finish. He's just hoping for the best, but it's going to be quite an experience.
The women, by the way, have gone through 4 miles, and the last mile was running 5:21.
Well, the last 2 miles in the women's race have been run extremely quickly. Hagenstadt, Sultanova and Jane Salumai, Estonia, leading by about 35 seconds over the chasing group. To my mind, the talent is in the chasing group, but these 3 are good athletes, and they probably should be thought about reeling them in now.
And actually, they've gone through 5 miles, 8 minutes dead. And the mile times, 5:51 for the first, 5:43 for the second, 5:30 the third, 5:21 the fourth, and they've slowed to 5:35 now. Well, the elite men are getting ready for their start. There are 3 starting points, by the way, because of the huge numbers involved. Eamon Martin, the winner in 2 or 3 years ago. Basildon, coached by Mel Batty, number 10. Next to him, McColgan, member of the Liverpool Pembroke Club. Mark Hudspeth is number 14. Cornwall medalist. The Cole forward, 66, is Nadua of Sweden. Serrano of Spain, one of the fancy number 4. best time of 2:09:32, which is fast. The countdown approaching the final 10 seconds. Mary Peters waiting on the starting block. Well, they rather mistimed the signal there.
I've never seen the officials move as quickly as they did there. Some of them look as though they must be athletic club members.
Interesting, Brandon, that all the watering holes are manned by athletes from various clubs up and down the country.
The support number of volunteers for an event like this is enormous. They talk about 6,000 being out on the day helping to get the London Marathon organised, and you've got to say it was a tremendous piece of logistics. The organisation of the London Marathon, a smooth start, they start from 3 points, the overall course management, the difficult part when they go around the Isle of Dogs because the roads keep changing and the road works always continually are happening there. But I just think the organisation team led by the general manager Alan Story, you've got to take your hat off to them. Dave Bedford does a great job putting the elite race together, but this organisation is fantastic.
Well, that's the other starting point, Greenwich Park, where the masses are. Just look at that. And it's very, very difficult to run in the early stages at all. They're packed in tight. No question of going too fast too soon, because you can't move.
Well, that's a good sign on a day like today. And there could be a record number of finishers in the London Marathon today.
Talking about numbers, I've just had a flash put before me. 39,000 were accepted. That's a record. 27,134 actually running.
Well, that's a record too, and that's great. And if you look at that line up there, well, they haven't started yet, but they've only been going a few minutes, and by 10 to 12 minutes they expect the start line to be finished. And there's the stream of runners, some of them on their way, some of them just literally getting into their running. 26 miles ahead of them. There'll be an awful lot of action, and there'll be 27,000 different stories to be told at the end.
The leader in the men's race at the moment is Patricio of Portugal, taking through the first mile, followed by one of the favourites, Silva of Mexico. That's Patricio. Silva just behind him. Twice a winner in New York, and third in this race 2 years ago. He's reckoned to be the big threat to the other Mexican, Ceron. Also in that leading bunch, we've got Russo, wearing number 2 in the yellow vest, the Belgian, who doesn't like warm weather. In fact, he's got a contract with the Federation in Belgium that says if the temperature's above a certain level, he's entitled to drop out. And I would think, actually, today's temperature might, towards the end of the race, approach that level.
Well, looking at it on form and on a cool day, you would say that he was going to be one of the big favourites for this race. But on a day like today, Vincent Russo, who is a suspect runner in warm weather, there he is, number 2 in the yellow vest and the green cap, following the pacemaker Patricio. Well, I just think he'll be as nervous as anyone about these weather conditions. He's an outstanding athlete. He's by far the best runner in this field. He's got the fastest times over 5,000 metres and 10,000 metres and the marathon in this whole field. But can he run in the warm conditions? He's certainly never achieved it before, and I wonder what's going to happen to him today.
Meanwhile, the masses still streaming away from the park. And of course, they'll all be starting their own watches because although at the finish, time shown on the big finishing clock there, some of them take at least 10 minutes after the gun's gone to get through the starting point.
And there you see the banners with names on and the flags. There's a Scottish flag, there's an English flag. Every county, city in this country is represented in this race. almost everyone knows someone who's running the London Marathon.
Well, the masses just going through the starting point. Meanwhile, the men are approaching the finish of the first mile. Trithio just checking on the watch. Russo follows. Silva of Mexico in third place. 5:04 for the first mile, Brent.
Well, the pacemaker Patricio was asked to do a little bit faster than that, so that's a slow start for the pacemaker. He's in there as the pacemaker. They've asked to go through the halfway in 64 minutes, which means that he should have been there in 4:55.
Oh, meanwhile, the elite women's race is approaching the 6 1/4 mile point. The Cutty Sark, one of the famous landmarks. You can say a sailing ship's a landmark. It's a long time since it sailed. One of the old famous tea clippers. The leading three still 1:17. Harkenstad of Norway, 1:08. Salume, Estonia, and 1:10. Sultanova of Russia. Get a check on the 6 mile time in a moment. Well, they've gone through 6 miles, 33:38, 5:38 for the last mile. They go around the Cutty Sark, quite a sharp turn, and then go on towards Surrey Docks. The leading three, Brendan, maintaining quite well.
And out of the leading three, Salomai of Estonia, who's got a best time of 2 hours 29:44. She's one of the athletes that the chasing group should maybe have a few thoughts about. The three of them look to be well clear, and I estimated it earlier, about 45 seconds clear of this chasing group, which is led by Ivanova, a former world walking champion, and last year's winner, Sabainska. But these three are going strongly, and they've got some company, they've got some tremendous support on the roads. I mean, this will be a great day to turn out and watch the London Marathon, and as you can see, the Cutty Sark, well, that's a favourite viewing point for the London Marathon, and the crowds are enormous out there.
Well, the weather news is quite startling. It's now 66, 19 Celsius. Expected to rise to a maximum of 73 between midday and 1 o'clock. Well, that's warm by our standards, but by marathon standards, it's too warm.
It is too warm for a marathon, and really some conservative action needs to be taken. I wonder whether the athletes know the details of that, because 19 degrees centigrade is a very difficult condition to run a marathon in. And the leading group are going along pretty well, and here we're looking at the chasing group around about half a minute behind.
Well, Sultanova, the Russian, started to break away. She's 34, highly experienced, at a best time of 2 hours 32. At the moment, she's running around 2 hours 24 pace.
And this isn't the weather conditions to run that. But, you know, it's beyond Tower Bridge when they get to the halfway mark that the gauges should be out and the measurements should be taken, and the time should really be taken interest in. The early stages of the marathon, people can do far too much, suggest some of these athletes are, and you can do far too little in the early stages, which the chasing group could well be in danger of that. So the classic dilemma in the marathon: do you go with a pace, or do you run at your own pace? And if I was in that, looking at that chasing group, I would still feel that the talent is in the chasing group. And when you look around, you just take comfort from the fact that last year's winner's in there, the fastest runner in the world, Kukovska's in there, Liz McColgan probably the favourites in there, and Ivanova, the Russian, who's the world 10-kilometre walking champion, is just stretching them along there. The three Kenyans are in that group too. So there's enough people in that chasing group to make you feel comfortable, but at some point these athletes should be getting information about what's happening up front, and there'll be plenty of people on the side of the road who will be telling them how far behind they are, the chasing group.
Gone through 5:39.16. The last mile, another 5:38. The men's race, half an hour behind in terms of the starting time. And Patricio is still the leader, the pacemaker, hoping to take them through the halfway stage in about 63, 64 minutes. Patricio, the leader there, Russo following in the yellow, the Belgian, then Herman Silva of Mexico. Russo in second place, one of the fastest marathon runners in the world, 2 hours 7 minutes 19 seconds. But Silva, one of the great competitors.
Well, the interesting thing about this is that yesterday they concluded discussions about the pace, and Patricio, who's been brought in here to be a pacemaker, was told he had to run the first half marathon, first half of the race, in 64 minutes, which is just over world record pace. Well, nobody took into consideration the weather conditions, because nobody's expecting it to be like this today. And so if you look at it, they're now operating at about 2 hours 8 minute pace in these conditions, which I think are a bit savage, particularly for the European runners, but more particularly for the British runners.
Actually, just behind that leading group, Eamon Martin, previous winner of the London Marathon. And he's showing signs of the heat already.
Well, they've been out there, they've been running 2 miles, they've been standing around in the start for probably about 25 minutes or half an hour, and they've been warming up a little. So warming up for a marathon on a day like this, you'd question the sensibility of that, but there we are. That's the early effect of the marathon, and really got to be very serious about their drinks. There's Mark Flint following Eamon Martin.
With Eamon Martin there was Ceron of Spain, who's wearing number 4. Look, they're still starting there. The elite runners are through 2 miles. The last mile was running about 4:50, second mile, and still they're streaming through the start.
Well, that's a brilliant piece of organisation. 11, 12 minutes, and they've got 27,000 runners off and running, and John Herring, who's in charge of the start there, has dispatched his 27,000 problems onto the guy who's in charge of the course.
Well, there's a race within a race taking place. This was recorded a few minutes ago. Abbott, Spurs captain, England international, starting it. Over 100 Premier and Ensley League clubs represented in this separate race and wearing club kit. In fact, they started at the same time as the elite males.
Well, just about every Football League team represented from Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales. I just wonder how the Premiership are going to get on. I know there's a bit of a side bet going on between 2 runners from Newcastle United and a couple of runners from Manchester United, because of course the Premiership yet to be decided, and a little battle going on here as well in this Marathon Football Challenge. A new innovation, and there's quite a few of those in the London Marathon this year. The women now approaching 8 miles. Shooters Hill Way there, just packed full, as it will be for some time yet.
Well, the 3 leaders in the women's race showing no signs at all of weakening, and it's noticeable they're taking it in turns, Brendan, to lead. That's Harkenstad of Norway now taking it off.
They've all done their fair share in the lead, and we can't even see the chasing group in that shot looking down the road, and I think they're in excess of half a minute behind this leading group. There's the leader, it's Ivanova, who's now broken away from that big group, and she leads the chase. Back to those three contenders.
Actually, it's quite important not just to practice drinking on the run, but also not to take it on board too quickly. The leading man in the elite race. Patricio is still the Portugal leading. Russo in second place. Up there is the winner for the past 2 years, Ceron of Mexico. He's wearing number 1. Silver of Mexico there too. This is the best quality men's field I think we've ever had.
It certainly is. And Dave Bedford, who organises that part of the race, has done a tremendous job getting together Russo, one of the world's leading distance runners, number 2 there. Alongside him, his teammate from Belgium, Eddie Hellebuck. Just behind him, Domingos Castro, one of the world's leading distance runners over the last 10 years. And then the 2-time winner, Dionisio Ceron, as well as all the top British athletes who are running for 2 opportunities today. They're running for the place in the Olympic team, and they're also trying to run to win this London Marathon. There they are together, Eamon Martin, Mark Flint, and Paul Evans.
2 already nominated, actually, for the Atlanta Marathon. Naroka, pre-selected, and also Whitehead, pre-selected. So there's another race within a race here. And now a check on the times there. And as with the women's, between second and third mile, the fastest mile so far.
And you were talking about selection. There was a tremendous controversy on Friday when all the leading British athletes sat down and criticised the British Athletics Federation, and particularly the Road Running Commission, for not selecting London as the trial for the Olympic Games. And they said that the fact that they picked Peter Whitehead from the World Championship last year when he finished 4th, they didn't mind that, but the fact they picked Richard Naroka, who finished 7th in the World Championships without having run a trial, and Richard's now been selected for 3 major games without running a trial, and the athletes were very disappointed about that. They feel as though the London Marathon is a big enough race, and it has served its purpose in the past. The last athlete to win a medal in the Olympic Games came from the trial when it was in 1984, when Charlie Spedding won the London Marathon. So controversy surrounded the British side of that race.
Well, at the 6-mile mark, we're expecting to see the wheelchairs any minute as they come round Cuddy Sark. Here they are, Chris. 3 of them locked together in the lead.
Yes, you're looking at David Holden in the lead there, followed closely by Jack McKenna, and in 3rd place we've got Ivan Newman from Saffron Walden. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. Team Bromican are getting a good name here, all 3 of them racing for Team Bromican. It looks like they're on course for around about 50 minutes at the halfway.
Vantage points all over London, and that's certainly an historic one. The T-Clipper Cuddy Sark. I was just thinking there, Chris, 3 guys locked together in the lead, all keen to win, and David Holding, of course, going for this hat-trick. Jack McKenna, he was 4th last year, and Ivan Newman, 2nd twice in this race. What do you think the tactics are going to be over the next few miles? Because if one of them does break away, that could be fairly significant.
Yes, I feel that the first half of London, there's no real areas where anybody can break away. You see David Holden there taking a little lead just because of a ramp. But basically, they're gonna virtually stay together until the halfway. And once you get to the cobbles, around about the 20-mile mark, you'll see a couple of breaks. But Jack's put in a little spurt there, covered by Ivan, and David following up the rear.
Well, in the women's race, they're really motoring at the moment. The leading athletes have just run the last mile between 7 and 8 in 5:28, and Liz McColgan has started to chase. Varnover alongside her, but McColgan beginning to show that she wants to get involved.
Well, she's just settled in nicely. She did nothing. She just stayed at the back of the pack and then slowly worked her way through. And this is the chasing group. They're about half a minute behind a group of 3 athletes who've broken away right from the early stages, done a lot of early running. Hackenstadt done some running way beyond her best performance. Then Salomai and Sultanova, but then this chasing group now with all the big names, all the top contenders in this chasing group, and Liz McColgan taking them along now, beginning to become active. The first 50 minutes of the marathon, Liz has done what she told us yesterday. She'll just opt out. 9 miles in 50 minutes and 19 seconds. And they're the leading group. And now Salomai and Sultanova. And then the leader, Hackenstadt.
They're running about 2 hours 25 pace.
Well, the Flora Mini Marathon just about to finish. It's a 2.8 mile course from Upper Thames Street that finishes in the main marathon finish. Fantastic moment for over 2,000 youngsters. The race was started by Will Carling, and this race in the past has produced some great athletes who've gone on to greater things. Matt Yates, one of Great Britain's leading middle distance runners, and Andrea Whitcomb, who represented Great Britain this year in the World Cross Country Championships. And it's open to all the youngsters of the London boroughs, all wearing the T-shirts representing their London boroughs. It's a tremendous moment, and the Mall really filling up now with spectators. In about, what, an hour and 3/4 time, it will be absolutely packed.
I'm back now with the men. Gone through 4 miles in 19:19. That's pretty quick. The mile times 5:04, 4:50, 4:43, 4:42. On course at the moment for about 2 hours 8.
Well, the pacemaker is doing the job that he's been asked to do, take them through halfway in 64 minutes, and then the contenders will see what they can do themselves after that. But I'm interested in the approach of Vincent Russo in second place. He's following the pacemaker every step of the way. He's obviously not concerned about the conditions, but I think these weather conditions will take their toll in the very late stages of this marathon. I think there'll be an awful lot of changes in the later stages, and that's what happens when you run a marathon at world record pace in difficult conditions.
In that lead group, Patricio, Russo in second place, Silva of Mexico third, Hallie Brook of Belgium, wearing number 72, is and Niam Basso, wearing 61, the Kenyan. Eamon Martin just behind that leading group. Paul Evans is there, blonde, in the yellow vest. Mark Flint's just behind him. Mark Hudsmith, bronze medalist in the Commonwealth Games from Morpeth, coached by Jim Alder, the former Commonwealth champion. Surprised we've not heard Jim already.
Don't worry, David, we will.
One of the great enthusiasts. Not just a good coach, but very strong vocal supporter.
You really can't do anything in this sport without enthusiasm, and Jim has it in bundles, and he has had it for many, many years. Patricio there, doing a good job as a pacemaker. So, in the yellow vest, number 2, in second place. And then Herman Silva, a tiny Mexican, former winner, twice winner of the New York Marathon, in third place. And in this race, all the big contenders are in this leading group, unlike the women's race, where the big contenders are in the chasing group. So it's Niam Basso, the Kenyan, who I remember gave us a tremendous fright in the Commonwealth Games when he led for about halfway in the Commonwealth Games, and he's the brother of Lamek Abguta, who'd won the 10,000 meters the previous day, and he looks so alike that we wondered whether the 10,000 meter winner was running in the marathon. But that's his brother, Niam Basso, and then just behind him, the British group, Eamon Martin, Paul Evans, Mark Flint, and Mark Hudspeth.
Last mile in 4:50. They're through 5 miles now in 24 minutes 9 seconds. It's quick.
Well, that's actually world record pace, but you've got to take a little bit into account here for the slightly downhill parts in the opening stages of the race. But the world record, 2 hours, 6 minutes 50, and this pace that they're running so far would bring them home just slightly ahead of that world record. Now, I would be cautious about that. A, the conditions, and B, the early stages of the London Marathon include some slight downhill runs as they approach the river. So the runners are running very quickly. The pacemaker is doing a terrific job, and the main contenders have said, well, if the pacemaker is going at that pace, I'm going to have to go with it. And you can see that group being stretched there as they run either side of the wheelchair athletes. But Patricio, the Portuguese athlete, you've got to be a good athlete to be able to even set the pace in this in a marathon. Get to 64 minutes at the halfway and do it on your own is tough enough to do anyway. And there's Vincent Russo pouring the water on his head, trying to cool himself down. And the temperature of 19 degrees. Well, I wonder whether they know the actual details of the weather conditions. They'll know it's warm, but I wonder whether they know it's 19 degrees and climbing.
Actually, Russo, his contract with the Belgian Federation says that he's not prepared to start at the temperatures over 19. Well, it is already, I think.
But to that extent, in the Rotterdam Marathon a couple of years ago, the temperature was over 19 degrees centigrade. He was standing on the start line. He had a contract for $100,000 to run the race, and because it was too warm, he just stepped off the start line. So he's a pretty tough cookie, because he took a lot of controversy. There was a lot of controversy about that, but he said, no, that's what I'm going to do. I know I can't run well in really hot conditions. What do I have to go out and prove it for?
Well, just wondering, Brendan, what some of these contenders for Atlanta are going to think once they get out to the United States for the Olympic Games, because most of these elite runners, this, of course, will be their last marathon before the Olympic Games. They're going to have to get used to this heat, and, of course, the humidity out there is going to be even worse. So, in some ways, this is a very good dress rehearsal for what could be a marvellous Olympic marathon.
Still got the same leader in the women's race. Gone through 10 miles in 55.50. That's 2 hours 25 pace. The last mile run in 5:31.
Well, that's 7 minutes faster than she's ever run in a marathon before. And you'd have to take wiser judgment and say that she's probably going too quickly, and she'll probably pay for it in the later stages. But strange things have happened in a marathon. But I just think to go from 2:33 to 2:26 in a marathon fell swoop, in difficult conditions, in a very competitive race. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the jury's out, but Anita Hakkestad from Norway is doing a good job here.
These are fairly significant gaps developing here. Ivanova in the third group there. There's McColgan in there, Kabinska, last year's winner. 1:29 in there, one of the Kenyans. Looks like Kanana to me. Chepchumba's there as well, 1:12. There's a bit of case of watching each other in this group. I think they believe the three leaders can't sustain this pace.
Well, the groups are breaking up at the front now. Instead of being a group of three, there are three individuals running on their own, and now we're looking at the third placer of those. Which is Salomai, Estonia, in third place and falling off the chasing group, off the leading group. In second place, we're looking at, there she is, Sultanova. And then further down the road, a brave effort here by Anita Hakkestad from Norway. And there she is, leading the women's marathon. And running at a pace that she's never run at before, in a position she probably never dreamed of finding herself. on the way to halfway in the women's marathon and leading by distinctive distances over the Estonian and the Russian, but then leading by about half a minute over the group that we expected to be the leading group, including McColgan and Sabainska, Chepchumba of Kenya, Kimeo of Kenya. So the women's marathon not really following any pattern. The men's marathon, however, the leading group in the men's marathon, all the big contenders are in the leading group. So as the women are at 11 miles, the men approaching the Cutty Sark just over 6 miles. And all the big names are here. Patricio, the pacemaker, an excellent job. And he's just wheeling them along there, almost world record pace. And I'm just looking at that group there, and I can see Mark Hudspeth, Morpeth Harriers, one of the contenders for the British team for a place in Atlanta, just off that group. So the British athletes in that leading group, Eamon Martin, Paul Evans, Mark Flint, and then around them some tremendous talent. Vincent Russo in the yellow vest there, the green hat, the Belgian. Herman Silva in third place, Mexico. Just behind him, the 2 times winner of the London Marathon, Dionisio Ceron. And here they approach the Cutty Sark, and the crowds this year look to me to be bigger than ever. And the organisation of the London Marathon have decided they wanted to bring the marathon back to the people and bring the interest in the fun running side of it. Well, we're looking at the elite race, but you can see the crowds are out and they really will be having some fun in 10 minutes. The mass start coming through the Cutty Sark.
About 13 runners in that leading group, and one suspects that even at this early stage, the winners among them, because all the right names are there. Patricio, the leader from Portugal, designated pacemaker, is doing a splendid job. He's smack bang on time.
Well, he's doing absolutely perfect for 64 minutes and a halfway time, which will bring them home in a very fast time. But I think apart from that group containing the winner, that group also contains some casualties. And there's the potential casualties. And there's the second group, including Gary Staines and John Solly. Now this group are going along a more conservative pace, and they've even got a pacemaker in there. But that race is going to... And there's the pacemaker, Harris, number 67, Steve Harris. Gary Staines, John Solly, training partners, both coached by Alan Storey, who's the general manager of the London Marathon. So there's quite a bit of experience to be shed on their shoulders. And that's the chasing group in the men's race. As we look to the leader, the pacemaker in the men's race, Carlos Patricio of Portugal. A good class runner in his own right. And the positions in the men's race have hardly changed at all. So there he is, Patricio, Russo, Nyambasso, Zachariah Nyambasso of Kenya, Eddie Hellebuck of another yellow vest there, of Belgium, and just behind him, Domingos Castro of Portugal. And it's going to be very interesting to watch Domingos, because he's one of the top distance runners in the world, and he's gradually moved to the marathon. Got some very good performances on the track behind him, including a 4th place in the Olympic Games. I wonder if this is going to be his day today.
Meanwhile, the leading lady is approaching the 12-mile mark at Tower Bridge. Not very far to go. Went through 11 miles in 1 hour, 1 minute 35. The last mile was running 5:37. And the gaps are growing, Brendan.
Well, Harkenstad still running strongly. And the other two who were with her for quite a while in the leading group, Jane Salomai of Estonia and Sultanova of Russia, both of them have run around about 2 hours 30. And the pace they're running today, that's number 110, Firaya Sultanova of Russia. Well, these two they're all traveling faster than they've ever done before, but these three are now spreading out. Harkenstad's on her own. She's running at a pace that she's never hinted at. She's never even run this fast in a half marathon, let alone a marathon. And I just wonder if she's not doing too much. However, the chasing group have got to be concerned about this now. As they approach halfway, they begin to gather. They've got to start considering some concerted pressure to try and bring back that chasing group. All the leading contenders, favourites, all the talent is in the chasing group. And Anita Harkenstad here is about half a minute clear of that chasing group. And, well, strange things happen in marathons. Strange things have happened in marathons. Norway have had some great runners, and she's coached by Øyvind Dahl, himself an outstanding marathon runner in the heydays of Norwegian distance running. But I wonder if they in the return. No unfamiliar sight to see a Norwegian leading in the London Marathon, because between them, Greta Weitz and Ingrid Christensen have won 6 of these London Marathons. They should know very much about the heritage of female distance running in Norway, but this is a sudden change in talent.
Actually, Brandon, you made the point that strange things can happen in marathon. Something may be happening here. This is a 2 hour 32 runner. She's running much faster than that at the moment. But then there may well be a tremendous margin for improvement.
And her half marathon best also is 73 minutes. And at this rate, she's on schedule for a half marathon best. So surprising running this. So 67 for 12 miles means that Anita Harkenstad is actually traveling much faster than she's ever done in a marathon. She's also traveling faster in this marathon than she's ever done in a half marathon. So unless the rules of distance running have changed, then things are going to happen dramatically to Anita Harkenstad in the second half of this marathon.
Okay, well, with the lead car in the women's race is Margaret Lockley, herself a very, very good distance runner. I hope you can hear me, Margaret, can you? What are the gaps like? It's impossible to tell. Obviously, she can't hear me. I'm trying to check on the gaps, actually, there. But I've got a strong suspicion that even Margaret Lockley on the lead car probably can't see the gap. There's some distance now. But the curious thing is, how far behind is the main group? We're trying to check on the gap, but it's impossible to tell on those shots. Well, that's the leader. We could perhaps it's very difficult to tell, Brandon, how far she is in front, but it looks substantial.
It certainly does look substantial as she approaches Tower Bridge. But she's in an area that she's never been before. She's running faster than she's ever run before. She's obviously prepared well for this marathon, but I've never seen anyone set a personal halfway in a marathon. She's taking her splits there from the kilometers. I'm sure she'll get a surprise when she sees a 20-kilometer time of 1 hour 9 minutes. There's the leader, Anita Hackenstadt.
We're just trying to check the splits. That's Sultanova in second place, who is 15 seconds back. Now the important thing is about the rest, where the big names are. This is the athlete in third place, Salome of Estonia. But the really big names are in the next group, and we'll check how far that is behind in terms of time in a moment, that group. Well, here's the other main group appearing, and they're getting on for a minute back.
Well, there they are. Liz McColgan, Angelina Kanana, the leading chasing group, and the first three in the wheelchair race just going through there. And here's the leading group, the chasing group in the women's marathon. Liz McColgan, Ivanova, Kanana, Sabainska, Helen Kameo, Chipchumba of Kenya, number 1 Kofska, the fastest runner in the race. And really, you've got to say that that's the place to be in this marathon.
Well, as we see the leading women, we also see the top 3 in the wheelchair race: David Holding, Jack McKenna and Ivan Newman. 1 or 2 little gaps developing, but Chris, nothing significant at the moment.
No, you just saw David Holding taking a drink on the slight downhill coming off Tower Bridge. Ivan Newman's been left a little bit behind. He's the heaviest of the 3. I would imagine from now on that the battles will start raging. Ivan's dropped a little bit there, and he'll have to catch up in the later stages.
Well, someone in this group is going to have to start working, because the lead is considerable. A rough check has shown them almost a minute behind.
And they're 13 miles, 1 hour 12 minutes and 47 seconds, and just halfway that would be about 1 hour 30, so she's almost a personal best time. I think it is a personal best time for a half marathon. Now, I've never seen anybody set a personal best at the halfway in a marathon and then continue and set a personal best in the marathon, but she's running at a pace which is 6 or 7 minutes faster than she's ever run before in a marathon. And you've got to say the Norwegians know how to prepare for marathons, but this chasing group now, they know they've got to get down to business, and I'm sure Liz McColgan senses that. The leader, Hackenstadt, about a minute ahead. Kanana, the Kenyan, next to her. Ivanova, the former walking world champion, so the 10,000 meter walking champion, and Liz, the former 10,000 meter running champion. So those two beginning to wind it up and beginning to get going. And the halfway stage, she's just gone through halfway in about 1 hour 13, just over 1 hour 13.
Back with the men's race now. Still Patricio, the pacemaker, in front. Russo, where he's been all the time, just a stride behind. Herman Silva has dropped back a little bit. Twice winner of the New York Marathon. I can't see Eamon Martin there. He's just off the back.
Beginning to labour a little there, Eamon, after 44 minutes of running, and they're going at a very, very fast. in these conditions. AIM has never been great at running in the heat, and there's Paul Evans, who's obviously taking on board as much water as he can internally and is pouring as much water on himself as he can. But Paul is in good form for this marathon, really wants to be competitive, wants to be the top Briton, but also is desperately keen to try and win the London Marathon. He's in amongst them in that group, exactly where he needs to be.
Also in that leading group, Letitia, the Kenyan. Kabiga, also a Kenya, number 32. Benson Masher, the Kenyan, 28. Kenyans there in numbers. And they recently dominated the Boston Marathon. 19 Kenyans started in that race, and they finished 1, 2, 3 in the end.
That's right, and there they are. Split times and kilometres for the European athletes who are much more used to that. We British who are used to counting the old 26 miles into equal segments. There the mile times: 4:50, 4:57, 4:59, 4:44, and that's the slightly downhill one, and then 4:55. So the overall pace well on schedule for 2 hours 8 minutes. And they know they're in a race, these runners. They know it's going to be tough in the second part of the race, and all the big names are there. Russo, Hellebuck, his teammate from Belgium, Domingos Castro in 4th place. And just behind them, last year's winner, Dionisio Ceron.
Some way back, the elite men. We go back to 6 miles, and this is where the mass of runners will be coming through for what? Almost 35, 45 minutes, perhaps even an hour. When you think back to the first London Marathon in 1981, just 7,700 people ran in that race, and now we've got some 20,000 more than that. Fantastic organisation required. We mentioned charity already today. The figure given at one of the press conferences last week was that since 1981, something like £60 million has been raised by runners. Many, many stories of human interest. The people running here, some for the first time, some running every year since the start, since Chris Brazier and John Disley got together and saw their dream turn into reality. I suppose one of the stories of charity being raised, there's a group of people out there, about 120 of them, called the Crinkly Bottom Joggers, and they started off with 3 runners in the London Marathon about 6 or 7 years ago. Now they're up to about 120, and all of them led by Humphrey Walters, running his last marathon before he sails off around the world, but all of them raising something like £1,000 each for juvenile diabetes.
Look from the helicopter now, the leader in the women's race. Still Harkestad of Norway. Showing no signs at all of weakening. In fact, looking very, very good indeed. 14 miles, 78:37. That's about 2 hours 26. And I'm told unofficially that the main group is well over a minute behind.
And there we're looking at Anita Harkestad, personal best at halfway in this marathon. Warm conditions. She's never ever suggested in her whole career that she was capable of running at this particular pace in a marathon. None of her recent form has been anything outstanding. She's a good class distance runner, but she's certainly not yet demonstrated that she's really world class. And here she is, past halfway in the marathon, about a minute ahead of the chasing group, and is Her whole career going to change, and on Norway going to be on the way back to the heights of world marathon running.
The leaders in the men's race, Patricio, running a very even pace. Russo in second place. I mean, that's good pace making, Brendan. 450, 459, 444, taking into account the gradients, 454, 455.
It's excellent pace making, but he's a good runner, and 10 miles in 48:38. And there's a big group of athletes there, but they're working hard for 48:38. These aren't perfect conditions, but some of these athletes have trained overseas, trained in the warm weather. They know what it's like running in conditions like this, and they're all there. Russo, Ceron, Castro, and the only Briton in that leading group, as I can see, is Paul Evans.
Eamon Martin's finding it very, very hard indeed. Brendan made the point earlier that he doesn't like warm weather, and it's showing.
And they went off, Eamon went with that pace, which I would think is a little bit too quick for him these days. Eamon's 37.5, and he's a great inspiration for those distance runners who stay on beyond the age of 30. But, well, he won the London Marathon a couple of years ago, but I don't think he's going to do that today. And there's Paul Evans, Britain's leading contender now. Finished second in the New York Marathon behind Herman Silva, who's just up there ahead of him. There, number 3, Herman Silva, relaxing his arms, looking over his shoulder, and he sees his teammate Dionisio Ceron, and then Domingos Castro ahead of him, then Eddie Hellebuck of Belgium, then Vincent Russo of Belgium, who, for a man who hates running in warm conditions, he's not doing a bad job today.
Check on the 10-mile marker in the men's race, 48:39. That is quick, Brendan. Around 2 hours 7.
2 hours 7 pace, that's right, David, and that is exceptional running, especially when there's such a big group. But when they go at that pace, and, on a day like today, and they go as competitively as they've done, then the second half of the race, I would suggest there'll be dramatic changes in the second part of this race. I sense we're going to see dramatic changes in the second half of the women's race, but that dramatic change that I'm expecting hasn't started happening yet.
We're trying to get a check in the women's race on the gap between the leader and the main pack led by McColgan. 11 miles for the men's race, 53:32. 4:54 for the last mile. Again, remarkable even pace. Approaching 15 miles in the women's race. And Harkenstad, well, she looks very, very strong. No signs at all of any frailty. And the gap is big. 84:16, 15 miles. Liz McColgan is pushing hard now. It'd be interesting if we can see her through that mile point we've just seen the leader through. We may be able to get some idea of the time gap. Each mile marker is festooned across the road with balloons.
And whilst we look down there on the leader, Anita Hackenstadt from Norway, and you can just see that's the leader, Anita Hackenstadt. She's still over a minute clear of the chasing groups.
Well, from the elite women, we can go to the Isle of Dogs. Somewhat of a lonely existence. Too many spectators. Still the development, the massive development of the Canary Wharf going on, and we should be able to pick up those three wheelchair competitors we were telling you about before. David Holding, of course, going for this hat-trick of wins. Jack McKenna and Ivan Newman. And Chris, as you suspected, past the halfway point now, but still locked together.
Yes, it looks like it's going to turn into a tactical battle. I fancy David Holding if they all stay together, although Jack McKenna's got a kick on him as well. I think Ivan, who's there in the white in third place, is going to have to make a break before the last 2 miles because he just hasn't got the sprint. But I'd like to see Ivan win because he's been second on 2 occasions now, and I know he'd really love to win this one.
Well, from Canary Wharf, and next time we see them, they'll probably be going underneath the bridge at 22 miles, but still at Cuddy Sark. The mass of runners pounding their way around this course. This is just at 6 miles. So you can tell from the position of the elite runners so far ahead now, just how far these people have got to go, but thoroughly enjoying it. And being swept along by the crowd, being helped along by each other. They won't have felt the first 6 miles at all, but when they start going round Docklands at 22 miles or so, that's when it's going to start hurting a little bit. But look at this. Runners from every corner of the globe. Over 112 countries represented here. The A to Z of running nations, from Algeria to Zimbabwe, from Antigua to Zambia, Argentina to Yugoslavia. Over 4,000 athletes from Greater London running. Every corner of the British Isles they've come from as well. Just one representative from the Isles of Scilly. That's a beautiful sight. The organisers of the London Marathon always producing some fantastic statistics for us for the day, and 124 of the runners out there today celebrating their birthday in what could be agonizing style in a few hours' time. The range of runners, well, a huge number of runners, and very, very good club runners will be finishing between about 2 hours 8, which is the anticipated finish time for the men, and about 3 hours. And then a huger number of runners will be finishing between 3 and 4 hours. But the organisers will still be out on the course in what? Some 6 hours' time, when they'll be picking up the stragglers. Marathon runners these days come in all shapes and sizes. All age groups too. A young lady out there today who is celebrating her 18th birthday just a little while ago, and I think there's one of the younger runners is even celebrating his birthday yesterday. Christopher Boney, who was 18 yesterday. Rosie Kennedy, the youngest lady in the race at just 18 years old, on the 1st of April. And all manner of fancy dress, some appropriate for the sort of conditions we've got today, and some totally inappropriate, especially if there's somebody inside that teddy bear. No, he's riding along on the back there. I don't know if we can see his number, but doubtless that man will bring a lot of money for charity. got a number of 80-year-olds racing today. Walter Kalis is the oldest man in the race at 83, and the ageless Jenny Wood-Allen, who runs once again, 84 years young.
Well, still the lonely leader in the women's elite race. The Norwegian, who's led pretty well from the start. Harkenstad in second place at the moment is Lume of Estonia. Also there in the leading three is Sultanova, the Russian. Actually, I think she's moved into second place now, the Russian, Sultanova. Salome of Estonia is third, and Liz McColgan trying to bring the main pack back into the race. But she's got an awful lot of work to do. The leader out on the Isle of Dogs. And we might get some idea of the gap here now. We can see the second athlete coming through. As she is, it's quite a big gap. It must be about 150, 200 yards. And then we'll check in a moment on how far Liz McColgan's back. Ran through 12 miles in 58.24. Again, that astonishingly well-kept pace. Look at those mile times, varying by just a few seconds.
Well, we talked earlier about this being the best field they've ever had for the London Marathon, and as they approach halfway, we're seeing a phenomenal piece of running here in the men's London Marathon. They're on schedule for around 2 hours 7, 2 hours 8, and then the men got all together and they've tripped up one of the women who's slowing down from the elite race, but that was a bit unnecessary. That's not very gentlemanly at all, was it?
We got some news of the women's race now, and the leader is slowing. Around the last mile in 5:52, so beginning to suffer a little bit. And the news of Liz McColgan, she's back in fourth place, some 30-odd seconds behind the third-place athlete.
Well, this is a really brave effort by Anita Harkenstad, Norway, setting a personal best at halfway and then continuing to run like this. But when I look at her record, she's only ever won two races of any significance. They're both Norwegian championships, so she's never won a race internationally. She's never run as aggressively as this in her whole career, but she's obviously geared up for this race. She's obviously keyed up for it, and to run a half marathon best en route, then a staggering attempt to try and win the women's London Marathon.
Well, back with the lead man. Patricio's still in front, but he's now a reluctant pacemaker. Russo passed him, but stopped for water then, and catching him up very quickly indeed. Patricio, as I suspected, dropping out at the halfway stage. 63.56 they've been on the road. Again, it's very quick.
Well, that's incredible. You know, he was asked by the organisers to take them through in 64 minutes, and he took them through in 63 minutes and 56 seconds, checking his watches all the way. That was an incredible piece of running, and he's brought the whole field with him. So perfection in pacemaking, and now I wonder what's going to happen in the race. And Vincent Russo is a very reluctant leader there. He's weaving from side to side. He doesn't want to be left in the lead. He doesn't want the chasing group, the group, just to be able to aim at him. But I wonder what he's going to do to get out of the lead.
There's waiting there that the boy alongside him is only 19, the Kenyan, Kabiga, running so far as we can tell in his first marathon. He looks strong too.
He certainly does, and while the men's race unfolds here, there's a different kind of drama in the women's race. Anita Hackenstadt there running the race of her life. Whatever happens in the later stages, we've never seen her run like this before. We never even thought she had the ability to run as fast as this, but she's got her own race plan. She looks pretty strong, and the two behind her are slowing down. She's opening the gap from those two, and then the chasing group, fourth place, is being led by Liz McColgan, and she's slowly closing down on the third place athletes, but we're not sure if she's making any inroads into this. And there's Anita Hackenstadt getting some instructions from the side of her, from the road, telling her exactly what's going on, and she'll be relieved to know that more than a minute lead over the main contenders.
I've just got a strong feeling the Norwegians showing signs of a little distress. McColgan steadily working away. Kanana just behind her. Mother of two. Arrived late yesterday. Hadn't realized she needed a visa. But what do you think, Brendan? She's not moving as freely, is she? And trying to get rid of the guy who's trying to advise her.
Well, she's getting some advice, and I think that was welcome advice, but she's had enough of that, and now she's just concentrating on her own race. And she's just gone through 17 miles, and when we get the split time, we'll get a little bit more information about the relative pace that she's going through, but she still looks strong. There's the 17 mile, 5:45. It's another fast mile time, so 17 miles, 1 hour 35:53. That's about 2:27 pace for the marathon, and this is a brave piece of distance running by Anita Hackenstadt. Can she keep it going? She's never been in this area before, and no matter how well you prepare for it, you never know till the later stages of the marathon. Will it stay together, or will it begin to fall apart beyond 20 miles?
And news of the weather there. There's not a lot of wind apparently, and the temperature now 68, 20 Celsius.
That's tough weather conditions, much warmer than we thought. And the worst thing about it is, as the race gets further and as their bodies heat more, then the temperature's rising on the outside as well. So that makes for some distress in the late stages of this marathon. 20 degrees, and it'll be still climbing, so it's going to be very, very warm. It's going to be very, very difficult. And we're an unusual type of race here. Like I said, I've seen plenty of marathons. I've never seen anyone setting a personal best at halfway and continue in one piece.
Well, they lead men beyond the halfway point, and it's developing into some race. That's the teenage Kenyan in front, Kabiga. I've just been checking on his record. He has run one marathon before, about 2 hours 14. But he's a big lad for 19. Russo, probably the top European, in second place in the cap. Silver is up there. And Paul Evans is in that leading group. So is Castro. Serrano is there as well as Spain, wearing number 4. That's the halfway time is completely wrong. It was faster than that, wasn't it, Brendan?
Well, there were 14 miles there in 1 hour and 8 minutes. So that's around 2 hours 7, and under 2 hours 8 pace still. And that's exactly as we expected it. They went through halfway, just under 64 minutes, and they're continuing. This quite large group still continuing beyond halfway in the marathon. And I hope they're a little bit more careful of the women at this point. I mean, at least they went round at that time. Last time they approached the women on the Tower Bridge, they knocked one of those poor women over.
Men's event is developing into quite. Russo trying to dominate. Kabiga won't let him, the Kenyan. And actually, that was the 14-mile time you saw on the clock earlier, not the halfway time. Still on schedule for something inside 2 hours 8. That's Silver now taking it up with Russo. Meanwhile, the leader is about 30 seconds in front. Hakenstad. Sultanova in second place, the Russian. And we may be able to drop back and see the athlete in third place. Apparently not. Oh, that lead looks looks more than 30-odd seconds.
And there the leader still. Got a very, very big lead now over the second place, Sultanova. In third place, Salomai, and in fourth place, Liz McColgan. Now the only sign we're only going to see any sign of tension, certainly not showing. Slowing a little, but not exceptionally, and now really it is up to Anita Hakenstad. There's second place, Sultanova in second place. 18 miles, 1 hour.
Actually, she goes through the shot. We can get the gap
seconds.
now between second and third with a bit of luck. And McColgan is beginning to move. It looks to me as if she might have taken third place. Salomai is dropping off the pace. Kanana, though, following McColgan. And the race really on between these two. They know they've got an awful lot of work to do. McColgan, I'm told, is 34 seconds behind the athlete in second place. And about a minute off the lead. I would have thought it was a bit from what we've seen visually, but that's the information coming from the course.
And those split times there, the times of Anita Hakenstad: 5:39, 5:45, 5:56. Is she now beginning to slow down? The last 3 miles have become progressively slower for the leader, Anita Hakenstad. And has she got it left? Has she got enough left to continue? She's got 8 miles to go in the Women's London Marathon. She's run a brave race so far. She's run beyond the ability that we've ever seen her exhibit in an international race. But is she timing it right? Have we got it wrong in that her form is much better in training and preparation than it's ever been before? I wonder.
The lead man through 15 miles in 73.27. Silver is there of Mexico, so of Belgium, Hallibrook of Belgium. The Kenyan, Kabiga, wearing 32. Castro of Portugal, Paul Evans of Great Britain.
So from the elite men, we can go back yet again to Cutty Sark, some 9 miles behind, and look at this, they're still coming. And I bet already they've made a bit of a dent in the 500,000 bottles of water that the organisers have arranged for today, because even by this stage they'll be gasping for a drink, especially that Canary. So really the anticipated finish time of most of these people, somewhere in the region of 4 to 5 hours or so. Some, of course, even beyond that. And mums, children, look at this, the rhinos. We've seen them over the last 10 years or so. Simon on the left. That must be awful running in those conditions. Those costumes, Brendan, they weigh about 40 or 50 pounds each.
Well, I was talking to Chris Brazier yesterday, Paul, and he was saying that the thing that constantly amazes him is the extraordinary effort that people go to. They take the toughest event in the Olympic calendar, the marathon, and then they make it more difficult by wearing rhino suits and noddy suits and silly hats, and he's continually amazed at this event that he started 16 years ago now, that it continues to, it even challenges what he ever thought it could do. And it's what he says is it's a great day for humanity, and when he finishes today, gets out of London, he has to spend tomorrow, or he has to always spend the next day of the London Marathon out in the hills recovering from what he sees as the human spirit personified.
Well, there's an old mate of mine from my athletics club, Hemel Hempstead, Brian Swan, who told me last year that when he stood at the finish, when the runners come across the line, there's a lot of emotion as they finish the marathon, and they're not the only ones that have shed a little tear, because all the helpers see that emotion for hours and hours on end. It's a marvellous experience for the many, many volunteers here. St John's Ambulance have got about 1,200 people, and the medical director of the London Marathon, he's got a staff of well over 100, and let's hope that not too many of them will be called upon today. There's one of the many firemen running. 14,437. 14437. Jeffrey Martin, he's come all the way from New Zealand. It says New Zealand on our caption here on the computer, but he actually lives in Collier's Wood. And he's not a fireman, he's an accountant. So, deciding to wear the fireman's helmet. 17775. Boy, will he be hot. Daniel Sims from Sidcup. Well, you remember the song, Run the World? That's two of them there. So creeping further and further behind the elite runners. 11:15. Two different times on that one. I'm not sure which one we're looking at, but it is 11:15, and of course the elite runners have been out on the road quite some time, but still the Cutty Sark, the focus of attention for so many thousands of runners. Remember, it took what, 12 minutes for them to get out of the park. There we go. Indians there. A long, long way to go though for these runners. They'll be out there for about 4 or 5 hours yet.
And there, Anita Hackenstadt just gone through 19 miles, 1 hour, 47 minutes and 42 seconds, and we're looking